Hi, I'm Carrie and welcome to episode 11. If you're new here, I am a knitter and knitwear designer based out of Columbus, Ohio, and this is my knitting studio where I get to work on all of my projects. I have so much that I want to share today. I am in that mode where I just want to knit like all the things. It's still really cold outside, and so that part is highly motivating. But not only that, the sun is finally starting to set a little bit later, so it doesn't get dark until like 6 p.m. and that means I have the slightest glimmer of motivation to actually work on things, not just like extra motivation for knitting, but like motivation in other areas of my life as well. The winter is always really hard because it gets so dark so early, and then you just kind of want to like lump and be cozy and all of that. So I have been knitting a lot and I have a lot of finished objects to share today. I have some works in progress and plans for new cast-ons as well. I'm wearing my Blendon cardigan. This is one of the like 4 cardigans that I wear basically constantly the entire year, and well, it's really one of 3 that I wear the entire year. This time of year I have a 4th one that comes into the rotation as well. I knit this one 5 years ago in 2020. Actually, almost exactly 5 years ago, because I think I released the pattern in like March or April or something like that. And as I said, yeah, it's one of the cardigans that I wear almost constantly. It has all over cables, a classic seamed set in sleeve construction, and it just kind of feels like a blazer almost. So I always feel really put together when I'm wearing this one. And this like kind of gold color feels like it goes with everything as well. So that's part of why I'm constantly wearing it. It's a great weight. It's made with DK weight yarn. It's all over cables. It's just a really fun piece to wear. So if you've seen my podcast before, you've probably seen the sweater, but also like I'm not gonna specifically wear something just to record. I'm going to wear the things that I wear in my everyday life. So that is this sweater. I wear it all the time, so here I am wearing it again today. Getting into my finished objects, I have 4 finished objects today, which feels like a lot, but also I've had like a lot of things almost finished for quite a while, so it kind of makes sense that I have a lot of finished objects. I'm gonna have a lot of finished objects next time too, or well, larger finished objects next time too. Most of the finished objects for today are smaller projects, but there are a lot of them. So let's go ahead and dive right in with my first finished object, which is actually 2 finished objects because it's the same thing, just two of them. These are the Rockmill Hat pattern that's going to be releasing on February 24th, so not that far away. I think it'll be next Monday when you are watching this. And I have a fingering weight version here with a nice folded brim, and then a worsted weight version here with just a single layer brim. So these match the Rockmill mitts pattern that I designed and released in December, and now I can finally knit the matching hat. So I love to knit matching things, especially matching accessories. So often I end up designing things in both an accessory and in a garment because I just like to explore the stitch patterns in different fabric quantities. So when there's like more of a space to work with for a sweater, for example, you can kind of play with the stitch pattern a little bit differently than you do in an accessory. But yes, I love to make matching accessories as well. So here is the matching hat for the mitts. And just like the mitts, there are 6 different stitch pattern options. I've just worked up 2 of them here. And there are instructions for fingering weight and worsted weight yarn. So I will go through what I use for each of these. This one is Knitting for Olive Merino in the rust color, held with Untold Pure Silk Mohair, also in the rust color. They're different brands, but the mohairs go together really, really nicely, and you can see that lovely textured stitch pattern here. This is just one of the options. For this one, I did the folded brim option that's included in the pattern, so I just did a tubular cast on. I really like Pearl Soho's tutorial for a long tail tubular cast on. That's what I did here. And yeah, it's a really straightforward project because you're just casting on, working for a while, and then working some crown decreases. So it's just a nice small project that's a lot easier to like move around and like pick up and put down while you're chasing after a toddler, for example. So it's always really nice to have like an easy small project on the needles to kind of get things done in some of those in-between moments. So I can go ahead and put it on here so you can see what it looks like. So it is just kind of a slightly slouchy hat with folded brim, and the mohair makes it really cozy. So I'm definitely excited to continue wearing this one through the rest of the winter. I knit the size small because my head is overall on the smaller side, I guess, but also my hair isn't very puffy. Like my hair is very straight and it compresses down a lot, especially now that it's like very, very long. It just kind of gets weighed down. So I always like to knit hats a little bit snugger because that's just the most comfortable for me. Otherwise, they just feel like they're too loose and just kind of like sliding around and falling off. So this is the fingering weight version. And the worsted weight version is worked in Knitting for Olive heavy merino in the slate green colorway. This is just 1 yard held by itself. This uses a slightly different stitch pattern than the fingering weight one. So again, there are 6 stitch pattern options included. I've just knit 2 of them here. The preview knit for this is well underway, so I know we're going to get a lot of different examples for the different stitch patterns that are available here. I will go ahead and try this one on too. So again, kind of same thing, just a nice slightly slouchy hat. This one has a little bit more structure to it than the fingering weight one. The fingering weight one I feel like has nice drape to it, though it's also still like very sturdy because you have both the fingering weight and the mohair. But this one just kind of like has more stand to it, and the other one has a slight bit more slouch to it, if that makes sense. But I really like both of them. I've been wearing this one a lot because it hasn't been like super, super cold lately, and we're about to hit some really cold weather here in the next week or so. And then I might transition actually to the fingering weight version because the mohair just makes it so warm that even though it's really lightweight, the mohair just adds enough warmth that it feels really, really great to wear when it is extra cold and you want that extra fluff around your ears. Also, I did knit the double layer here for the fingering weight brim. I'll probably be switching to this one in the next week when we're supposed to get into at least the teens. Like this morning it was 13. I think next week we're supposed to get into some of the single digits here and there. So yeah, definitely gonna need some nice and cozy hats still here this winter. So as I said, the pattern for this one is going to be releasing soon. It'll be available on Monday, February 24th. So if you'd like to get a little bit of a discount on this pattern on release day, and by a little bit, I mean 40%, be sure to sign up for my newsletter list. You'll get an email on release day with the discount code, and that's always the best way to get the best price on all of my patterns when I release them. Next up, I have a finished baby sweater. So this is little Bryce Cardigan, and I guess it's technically not a baby sweater. It's a toddler sweater. My child is a toddler, not a baby. I worked this up in Knit Picks High Desert Sport in the forage color. This is primarily knit in US 5 needles, and I knit the size 4, but I also messed up knitting the size 4, and so it actually is somewhere in between a size 24 months and the size 4. So because there's like this kind of 2x2 rib and the cable panel at the front, and you want kind of certain breaks between the different sizes, there was a setup round that I just completely missed knitting when I was knitting this version, and I missed doing some increases to get what should be the correct circumference at the body. That being said, my child is on the skinny side, so this absolutely fits her really well right now, and she still has room to grow into it as well. I knit the sleeves very long, and by very long, I mean it's long, it's according to the pattern, but the pattern is intentionally written with long sleeves. So right now it fits really well with the cuffs folded up here. And as she continues to grow, I'll be able to unroll the sleeves and, you know, not have the sleeves end up too short before she's outgrown the circumference. Yes, the sleeves are technically like too long when you first start wearing the size, but by the time you're growing out of the size, the sleeve should be approximately right. Maybe that you'd still need to cuff them a little bit, but for kids garments, I feel like it's better to knit the sleeves too long and just need to cuff them rather than ending up with a sleeve that's way too short when you still haven't like grown out of the body yet. So that's why they're kind of written long in the pattern, to be able to cuff and then unroll as you grow. I've taken the same strategy with other kids' garments that I've done, and I just had my daughter wearing her little plinth tee, the long sleeve version, in size 2 years that I knit like last summer. Technically she should be like out of the size range for the 2-year size now, but or 24-month size. But again, my child is kind of skinny, kind of tall, so right now the circumference is like still fitting her really, really great. We can probably get through the rest of this winter with that garment. And the sleeves are like absolutely perfect on her now. So I really like having that long sleeve to start with to really be able to accommodate a child's growth and not have to worry about something kind of looking like not right, or like you've clearly outgrown something, especially from a length perspective. So it really just adds some versatility by having that extra long arm length. We've already gotten a lot of wear out of this sweater because, you know, it's a cardigan, you can put it over anything. So whenever my kid sees the sweater, she wants to put it on. And it's also really cute because whenever she's like eating or wanting to like paint or do art, she wants to take it off. She's like, take off, get messy, put back on later. I'm pretty sure there's like toddler schmutz over here on it, but you know, we'll wash it, continue to wear it. Nothing that a toddler wears is ever going to stay like completely clean for very long. So it is what it is. So a couple of things that I did differently, other than like my complete accidental mistake of not knitting the setup rows and ending up with kind of an in-between size. I didn't do the shawl collar on this garment, and I also did only 3 buttons. So the pattern does include instructions of like what to do if you want to knit the shawl collar or omit the shawl collar. I decided to omit the shawl collar for this one just because I was like, I think it'll be really cute without it. So I'm just gonna try that to see what it looks like in a garment that I have myself. I really like it. I actually kind of want to knit myself one of these with no shawl collar because yeah, it turned out really cute. The other difference that I did was only having 3 buttons here. So the pattern calls for 4 buttons, and that's kind of like what's written into the instructions. But the set of buttons these are from are a 7-button set. So I was like, while she's small, I can probably get away with just using 3 buttons on a cardigan. And then as she gets bigger and I want to knit a bigger size, either of this cardigan or another cardigan or whatever, I'll have 4 buttons to use, which will be much more appropriate for larger sizes that I make for her, rather than on this one, which can like totally get away with 3 buttons. So I'll give a little close-up of the buttons here. They're just a really pretty wood button. I really like them, think that they're really cute with the gray. It just looks like a super classic sweater, and I'm really happy with it, and I'm really glad that my daughter is liking it too. I have one last finished object, and these are Wisp Slippers. And these were knit in one weekend shortly after I last recorded a podcast, and they're such a fun and fast project. It's bulky weight yarn, US 6 needles for like a cozy and dense fabric, but because it's bulky weight and because it's also just like a slipper that's mostly around your foot, it goes really, really fast. So the yarn that I used is Knit Pick Swish Bulky, and this is honestly a really inexpensive yarn. I think it's like normally $13 a skein or something like that. And I noticed when I was putting together my notes for this, it's currently on sale for like, I don't know, $10.50 or something like that. So less than $11. So it's even more of an economical project now while the yarn is on sale. But even when it's not on sale, it's still like a very economical project for something that is so fast, so cozy, and so satisfying to work. So I am very happy with my finished result here. I will say the yarn is definitely pilling. It is a superwash merino, so I feel like superwash merino just kind of has a bit of a tendency to pill, but again, you know, it's a slipper. It's going to be something that I'm just throwing on at home when I want to be extra cozy. I knit this mostly to have the color, and I mean also the stitch pattern, but I liked this color a lot. I thought this would be super cozy to wear all the time when I'm working at home. I usually will like put on a pair of hand knit socks and then put slippers on over, and this is the perfect like extra bit of warmth in addition to the socks. So I've been really pleased with wearing them the last couple of weeks since I knit these. So the construction for these is really fun. You start with a little tab at the back heel, pick up stitches around, work a little bit of heel shaping, and work flat, then just join in the round, work some toe decreases, and voila, you have a slipper. Being a slightly unique construction there, I did film a little like tutorial vlog situation while I was working these up. That video is up now, so if you're casting on your own pair of these and are wanting a little bit more guidance as you're working them up, or if you're just curious about the construction, that video is posted. I'll link it down in the description for you. But this was a really fun and fast project, like a great weekend knit. I knit it over a long weekend, but I also only knit it like basically during naps and like after bedtime. So if you have more knitting time than just toddler nap and post bedtime, you can easily knit this up even just like a regular weekend. So I'm very happy to have these done and have a nice little extra cozy thing to wear for the rest of the winter. Getting into works in progress next. This is my Rockmill cardigan, and if you have been following along on my podcast, you'll be like, Carrie, you basically haven't done anything since the last time. Why are you sharing an update? yes, I have almost done nothing, but I did do like half of the button band. So the last time I only had the button band left to knit, and now I've knit like half of the button band. So I only have half of the button band left to go, and you would think that I would have been able to make more progress than this in the last month, but like I was focusing on my daughter's cardigan, I've been knitting hats and slippers and all of the things, and also my next project that I'm going to show you. So this one just like wasn't really seeing a bunch of action. There were only a couple of rows left, so I will absolutely have this done by next time. I will have a finished sweater object, which I am really excited about. So if you have not been here, this is worked in Rosa Pomar Vovo, held with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair to create a lovely kind of, not really marled, but blended color effect. So the green is like a mid-tone green. And by the green, I mean the green of the Vovo, the main color, is mid-tone green, and the Knitting for Olive mohair is a darker green, so it just kind of blends together really, really nicely, and I love how it looks with this texture. It's a DK weight gauge, so I'm working this on US 6 needles. Maybe you could also use worsted weight with it. I haven't tried that out, obviously, but I am very excited with how this is coming out. It is really cozy and almost done. That being said, despite the good news of this being almost done, the bad news is I'm probably not going to release the pattern until the fall, just knowing that we're about to be heading into springtime. I have a pattern that I kind of put aside last fall that is a tank top, so I'm going to be bringing that back into the focus in terms of like pattern writing and that sort of stuff. So this one will get released later in the fall. I will have to go through the whole preview knitting thing that usually takes a couple of months. I definitely still need to keep a focus on it, but the pattern release will not be until later. That being said, I think it's fine. I mean, that gives me time to knit another one should I want to, because I really do want to. I don't know if I have the time to. And by the time to, I mean, I'm just like so excited about knitting so many things. There might be a lot of other things that I also want to knit. So it really just depends on how things shake out in terms of what actually gets done when. If you've been following along, you will know that I was having some concerns about yarn usage, and then I ended up purchasing 2 additional balls of the Vovo. So this is how much I currently have left for the button band of the second to last ball. So I'd already like worked through all of the yarn that I had initially bought. So I probably will barely dip into my last ball. So it's a good thing that I bought both and didn't just buy one, because otherwise I would have been in a yarn chicken loss state, which is never fun. Have a little bit left here, but yeah, probably gonna need to dive into that last bit. And then I guess I can also show you the buttons that I'm planning to use for this. These are ceramic buttons from Briar Rose. They're lovely green with like a print on them. I've already taken one to kind of clip it onto the yarn. Let's see. I've just clipped this one on with a stitch marker. Yeah, so it looks really, really lovely with this green. I'm really excited about it. So they're fun square buttons, and I'm going to be using 4 of them, so I kind of get to pick which of these textures that I'd like to include. Really excited to finish this one up, get it blocked, see how the fabric transforms. I don't think it's going to transform a ton, just because the fabric now feels pretty comparable to my swatch, which has been washed and blocked. But yeah, we'll see how it goes there. And next time there's going to be a finished sweater. Getting into my last work in progress, this is also a stash dive and revive update, I guess. So this is my quotidian tee, and I have one sleeve done here and the start of another sleeve. So this is actually the 3rd sleeve that I'm starting here. So I ran into some issues when I was knitting the sleeves here. So last time I had recorded, you actually saw this sleeve here just getting started, and I got about halfway through that sleeve, and then I'm like, oh, I should try it on and see how the fit is going and all of that. And when I tried it on, the sleeve cap was just very large and sloppy, and that's when I realized I had a gauge issue. So I just went ahead and picked up for the 2nd sleeve and was like, can I fix this just by like fixing my gauge problem? Because like I've knit this sweater 2 other times before. Granted, I haven't knit the long sleeve version, but like my preview knitters for this pattern did knit the long sleeve version and theirs look great. So I'm like, I think this is just a me gauge problem. So I picked up for the 2nd side, knit the sleeve cap, got, you know, about halfway done there, tried it on again and was like, yes, indeed, this second sleeve cap looks so much better. I'm so much more pleased with the fit than with the first one. So continued working there and then ripped out the first sleeve that I had started, and now I have gone back on track with this one. I have tried it on at this point, especially when you have things like on DPNs. The DPNs kind of like affect how things stand around your arm because they're straight, like it's a straight square around your arm, so it kind of pulls the fabric weird. And yes, I could put it on waist yarn or try it on tubing or cord or whatever, but there is just on double points for now, and I'm confident that I will like the fit of this once I get a little bit further in. So I'm really excited about that. I did film like a little, I guess, cautionary tale video thing, kind of detailing the issue that I was running into with my gauge in the sleeve cap and how much gauge can truly impact the fit and like being happy with the fit of your garment. Look for that in a couple of weeks, I guess. I still have to upload and edit that, but like, it's a really critical reminder that things can go south really quickly if your gauge is off because the results aren't what you expect them to be, especially in a case like this where the rest of my gauge was on and it's a set and sleeve pattern. Like, the cap is designed to work with the gauge that it's designed for. If you're off gauge, things start to go real weird real fast. So yeah, look for that video in a couple of weeks. Subscribe if you're not already, if you're interested in hearing that story, because yeah, it's definitely a journey, and I'm very, very happy to be back on track where I am now. And I hope that this sleeve will be relatively fast to knit. I'm just knitting in the round at this point, and I know that a lot of people do this, but I have like all of my markers here. I'm like trying to show and just hiding myself here. I have all of my markers back here. I'm doing like a great job of showing this and also like showing my face. We're doing great. So I just am now transferring the markers as I reach them over to the other side so that I know that I've done all of my decreases, so that kind of like knit until you get to the next time that you're able to transfer the marker is kind of motivating. Hoping that this is gonna go relatively quickly, and then I'm going to have a nice cozy but light mohair sweater to wear here at the last bit of winter. Right now it's like the middle of February, so we have maybe like 5 weeks of winter left. And to be fair, usually like we do have some pretty cold days, like not necessarily consistently, but they're like cold snaps that continue to happen, and you need like long sleeve sweaters and that sort of thing through March and even into April. And I feel like there's been one time that we got a snow in like May, like early May. So anyway, I'll be able to get a little bit of wear once I complete this in the rest of this winter, but then I'm going to have it for all of the winters ahead for the rest of my life, or until it, you know, no longer fits or ends up with irreparable holes or whatever. You never know what's going to happen with a child in your life. All of that aside, I will be able to wear this a lot. I know I'm going to wear it a ton, being essentially just like a black v-neck. That's something that I just naturally gravitate towards anyway. Having a hand knit one is going to be really exciting for me so that I can up level my standard black t-shirt uniform into something a little bit more luxury, a little bit more elevated, and that's kind of fun for me. So very excited about this one being almost done, especially since like this has been on the needles for more than 2 years. I am excited to finally get it off the needles, have it be something that I wear and hopefully love to wear. So this one's been a long time coming, and we're finally getting it right. So that is everything that I've been working on, but I have a lot of things that I am excited to work on next. So I have a couple of swatches to share and some yarn to share as well for upcoming projects. So 2 of these were on my winter knitting plans video, and I'm like actually going to execute on the plans that I created, but one of them is not. And that's the one I'm going to start with because it kind of ties into Stash Dive and Revive. So this is the swatch that I have started here, and I'm honestly really loving the depth of this marled fabric and the contrast hem here. So this is actually 3 yarns held together, and I will show you each of the yarns that I'm using in this swatch here. So the first one is this yarn here. This is the reason why it ties back into Stash, Dive, and Revive. So it is a Knit Picks yarn, and I bought this, I want to say maybe like in 2013 during one of Knit Picks' big like Black Friday sales. And I think when I purchased it, I was expecting this to be significantly more tonal. And when I received it, it was like highly variegated. There are like really light portions and really, really dark portions. And I remember receiving it and being kind of disappointed, but also because it was like a Black Friday special yarn, it wasn't something that I could return. So it kind of just ended up sitting for the last 10 plus years in my stash. That's a really long time for yarn to sit. Like, I have no problems with the overall size of my stash. I think it's a very reasonably sized stash, and I kind of like having options there. But the problem that I have with my stash is that a lot of things have just been sitting there. Like, I'll buy new yarn, and the new yarn that I buy gets used really, really quickly, and then I'm just like not going through a lot of the older stuff. So I'm trying to like go through some of that older yarn and make things with it that I love. Now, that was going to be a challenge with this one because, again, as I mentioned, I wasn't necessarily super in love with this even when I first bought it, and especially now I trend more towards like solid colors. Like the amount of variegation that I want in a tonal yarn typically has reduced even further from where I used to like things back when I purchased this yarn. So I was like, okay, what can I do to make this something that I actually would like to wear? With my last project, the Quotidian Tee that I was just talking about, I was holding Mohair along with another really, really old stash yarn. That was more of like a color thing. It was kind of like a gray purple color that was lace weight. So I probably just wasn't going to knit a straight lace weight garment, and also not a lace weight garment in that color. So I was like, okay, let's just hold it with black, and then it'll be something that I would absolutely love to wear. So I'm like, okay, what if I just hold this with Mohair to kind of tone down the variegation? So I knit up like a tiny little swatch with just these two held together. So this is Knit Picks Aloft Mohair in black, and held these together. I decided it was still too high-low contrasty. So then I'm like, okay, what if I add in another strand of fingering weight? So I kind of like get a marl effect going on with these two, and then also have the Mohair kind of backing it off a little bit. So this is not the yarn that I swatched with, but this is the yarn that I ended up purchasing to provide this effect. I just had grabbed a dark blue sock yarn that I had in my stash and held that dark blue sock yarn, this, you know, variegated skein, and the Mohair together. I'm like, yes, I think I can work with this and getting something that I actually like to wear. So at the start of this year, I bought a sweater quantity of the Mohair plus this just Stroll Solid fingering weight. I think this is Midnight Heather, maybe. Yes, Midnight Heather. They were just kind of sitting for the last couple of weeks, and I finally got around to swatching. And again, that is this swatch here. And I don't know if you can tell, but I actually have a 1x1 rib on one side and a 2x2 on the other, just to see like which rib I kind of liked better. I think that this is going to be a super cozy, like sporty kind of sweatshirt sort of thing. So with that kind of vibe in mind, I went looking for patterns that fit my gauge that I've achieved on these needles here, and like the sweatshirt vibe, basically. So I ended up landing on the Harlow pullover by Kadri. I've never knit a pattern by Kadri before, but I know that I've seen a lot of other podcasters knit the Harlow sweater and have a really good experience with their finished object. So I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I was looking at the pattern page. I know that I'm going to have to size down. I just don't like as much positive ease as a lot of these like trendy designers typically recommend. So I just have to figure out what size down I think that I will like. I don't know if it's going to be the smallest size or the second to smallest size. I'll have to, I guess, buy the pattern and decide once I kind of like look at the measurements and all of that. I'm excited to finally start using this yarn that I bought many, many years ago, and I've now turned it into something that I'm actually kind of excited about. So it's kind of neat going from something that like you were actually kind of disappointed in when you first got it, but you held on to it all these years, to now turning it into something that you might actually wear a ton. So this is going to be an interesting transformation. And honestly, like worst case scenario, if I decide that I'm not super in love with the finished product, you know, sure, I'll have spent some knitting time on it, but I will have gotten the yarn out of my stash, and I think it's the kind of thing that someone else would really love. So even if it's not necessarily for me, I know that I'm probably going to be able to find a home for the sweater and for the yarn, which is the important thing. My next swatch is in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the slate gray color, and this is a size US 7 up here and a US 6 down here. You can definitely see it. I hope it also shows up on like the video screen. You never really know how the contrast differentials are going to work, but you can really see that I'm kind of like rowing out down here with this US 6, and my gauge is a lot more even with the US 7 up here. The gauge in terms of like actual stitch counts is pretty similar for me for the US 6 to US 7. It was really just a factor of evenness of stitches. So I think it's just a lot more comfortable for both my knits and my purls to end up more balanced on the US 7 than on the US 6. And the great news is this gauge, which is 18 stitches per 4 inches, is exactly matching the champagne cardigan, which is what I intended to knit with this in my winter plans video. So you might recall, if you had watched that I'd purchased the yarn thinking that maybe at a kind of lighter worsted weight, some people kind of knit this yarn as a DK, that I might be able to knit another Rockmill cardigan with it. But for me, it's just truly a worsted weight yarn with like how I knit my own tension. So I scrapped that idea and was like, okay, what is kind of a nice, easy cardigan, knowing that like I love to wear cardigans. I don't have enough cardigans, and I'm just like, as I said, I'm rotating through like 4 constantly. So another one would be a great addition into my wardrobe. And also just kind of have a lot going on at work. So I wanted something simple to work on. So Champagne Cardigan is a simple, mostly stockinette cardigan, and I'm meet engaged for it. So that is very exciting. So that is going to get cast on soon and become part of my whip rotation. That being said, I am going to finish my current works in progress, the sweaters that I have going on right now, before I cast these on, because gotta finish what I've started before getting started on something new. This recommends like 11 inches or something like that of positive ease, and I know for me that that is way too much positive ease, so I will be sizing down, but it's still gonna be like a relaxed, oversized kind of cardigan. So I don't know how much extra yarn that I'm gonna have, but I've thought about playing around with the idea of adding pockets. So clearly we're gonna knit the sweater first. Maybe we'll add pockets because I think that design would look really cute with some pockets on it. And lastly, I have some yarn to talk about. So these are all Knotty Pine Fiber Company. This is Bighorn Sock, a leftover ball from a pair of fingerless mitts that I knit a couple of years ago. And then these minis are from my 2022 advent, so just 2 colors from that advent. So I thought that I would put these colors together to knit a pair of socks from Summer Lee. So in my winter plans video, I was kind of between 2 different sock patterns, and I ultimately landed on the Cider House socks. And it's just like a stripy cuff that goes into a solid cabled classic sock. Really like the vibe of those ones. And I think what I'm gonna do, you have like the cuff main color being like the darker color that goes next to the lighter green here, and then have this like golden color be my stripe. I'll hold it all up a little bit closer so you can see. I am a little bit worried that these aren't contrasty enough to provide the same kind of like graphic effect that Summer Lee socks are known for, but we're working with leftovers here. I'm trying to put together some nice combinations with things that I already have. I don't want to purchase new yarn for this, and I have like tons of leftover sock bits that, you know, if this exact combination doesn't exactly work out in the way that I'm hoping it will, then I can always, you know, rip back the cuff because I decided the cuff didn't have enough contrast in the stripes, try in a different stripe color. There are plenty of options, and socks are such a small project that if I end up losing some time due to making the wrong decision on color to start with, like, it's not the end of the world that I have to rip back like this much cuff on a sock and re-knit it. Totally fine. So again, once I finish up my sweaters, I'm going to also cast on these socks. So I'm gonna have like 3 new cast-ons once those sweaters come off the needles, but I definitely need a smaller project to keep around with me. In addition, just knowing that both of those sweaters, while really simple, they're like all over stockinette, are going to become like unwieldy in size pretty quickly. The Champagne Cardigan is a top-down raglan, and then by the time you're in the easy part of the body, like, there's just so much sweater there that it's not as easy to like take around the house and pick up, put down, even though like The stockinette part is easy, but just like the physical size of the project is not as easy to carry around. And then again, for the Harlow sweater, that one is a drop shoulder, so you're like working the back and then you pick up for the front. But once you've kind of like done that upper body section, again, you're kind of in the there's a whole lot of sweater here phase, and it's not as easy to carry around places. So that's really something that I will knit on, not like as a pick up, put down while chasing toddler kind of project. That's a sit down on a couch while I can be nice and relaxed project. So this will be my next kind of on the go project. I'm really excited about all of these cast-ons and getting some new projects on my needles, since I feel like a lot of what I've had on my needles, especially my sweaters, have just been on my needles for so long. It's gonna be really nice to have like fresh, exciting, fun. Not that the other projects aren't fun, but like, you know, new shiny things are new and shiny and fun. So it'll be great to have a whole fresh batch of things on my needles. Well, I have been rambling on quite a bit about all of my projects for a while now, so that is everything I have to share today. If you enjoyed this video, I would so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on future videos. Next time I will be sharing that kind of fit evaluation update thing about my quotidian tee. Then the next podcast I anticipate having several finished sweater projects, so that'll be really exciting. Thanks so much for watching again, and happy knitting. See you next time.